The issue around net zero is looming its ugly head again because it's being raised as an issue by the Liberal Party and the Nationals. They're holding a meeting on it this weekend, in fact, and they're likely to make a decision about whether to go for net zero or not. But here is my take on whether this is a good or a bad idea. So what I've done is a couple of clips for you which demonstrates their sense of confusion. Also, I have planned to put together an overview, I guess, of where renewables sit in this country and whether or not they are a good or a bad thing for our economy, for our well-being, for our health. And so I'm going to put that together for you shortly, but I just want you to have a look at what specifically they're saying on my favourite network, Sky News, in relation to this issue, and then I guess we will discuss it.
Well, let's get more now on the net zero debate. Jude Blick is a senior policy analyst with the Centre for Independent Studies, and he joins me now in the studio. Jude, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining me on the show. Look, as I just mentioned there, I mean, the coalition is really dilly-dallying on this. Labor's got us on a renewables-only magic carpet ride. You're an expert in this field. What should the coalition do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty clear, to be honest. The coalition should ditch net zero, absolutely. There's two reasons for that in mind.
Just need to say, I don't know how this guy is an expert or what is an expert in. He's in the Centre for Independent Studies, who are a right-wing think tank. That's all they are, is not really an expert in anything particular, this particular issue.
First is the principle. I mean, net zero is built on a fundamental lie, which is that we can save the world and we can do it for free. And of course, that's built on the lie of wind and solar being the cheapest form of power, which is just very clear now that it isn't. And the second is actually politics. I mean, I think the political winds are blowing in the coalition's favour here. It's 2.5 years until the next election. That's 2.5 years of time for people to figure out that the energy transition is not going smoothly. Bad news will come and more bad news. And I think there's a strong opportunity for the coalition to take a strong position early. People are going to come to them.
I think the converse is true. I think that in the next 2.5 years, there may be further realisations that once the infrastructure has been established and once we're set and ready to go, that in fact, hopefully, and I'm hoping that this is the case too, otherwise I would believe that we're all conned, that the prices will decrease because the real experts say, as I'm about to explain to you in a moment, say that it will. And we also have Steve Price's take on this as well, which is kind of just as revealing.
Had a meeting in Canberra to discuss energy and net zero policies. Here was the Shadow Energy Minister, Dan Tehan, speaking after that meeting.
Incredibly helpful for me as I continue this process of making sure that we've got an energy and emissions reduction policy that is in the national interest. And the key takeout for me is that how many things that we're united on.
Joining us now, Friday regular former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman. Campbell, I listened to that and I listened to the reports of what unfolded in Canberra today. It seemed to me to be a net zero meeting about net zero. Nothing happened.
Exactly, mate. And the problem is that until the Liberal Party and perhaps elements of the National Party still wake up to themselves and prepare to actually go out and fight and make an argument, they're not going to get anywhere. And this is what they should be saying, Steve. They should be saying net zero is a preposterous, outrageous lie. It will not achieve anything in terms of climate if you believe in that. It is going to destroy Australia economically. It will drive jobs offshore. And most importantly right now, it is driving inflation higher through energy prices. In a week where we saw a higher than expected inflation result.
Okay, so let's talk about this all, Campbell Newman. So the question really here is anything that we've just heard reality? Or is it just spin from these guys who think they know what they're talking about? Or is it the simple fact that the Liberal and National Party haven't got any idea? So I guess, what if I told you that walking away from renewables isn't saving Australia money. In fact, it's lighting our wallets on fire. It's doing exactly the opposite. If we abandon the renewable transition, Australians won't just pay with higher bills. We'll pay through trade penalties, health costs, and climate-fueled disasters. So today, folks, I'm breaking all this down, exactly what this means for you, for the economy, and for Australia's future. Because when someone says, let's just stick with coal, what they're really saying is, let's stick you with the bill. The Australian Energy Market Operator, the people who actually run the grid, they're saying something completely different. They say the cheapest, most reliable system for Australia is renewables plus storage plus transmission. Their 2024 plan found renewables could save consumers $18 billion compared to clinging to coal and gas. So our coal fleet, well, let's look at that. It's like a 1970s Kingswood. Nostalgic, sure, something I would never necessarily want, but I can guarantee you it breaks down every summer just because it's old and it's worn. And every time that happens, you pay for the backup generators and price spikes. Coal isn't keeping the lights on, it's keeping the bills up. So even if we wanted to keep burning fossil fuels, the rest of the world's already moved on. And in some ways, we could look to China and see what they're doing in relation to this issue, because they're building a whole host of renewables right across the country, even though they're also having to build coal fire stations to keep up with their energy needs at this particular point in time. But they will be moving to renewables over time. The European Union now taxes high emission imports through its carbon border adjustment mechanism. That means Australian steel, aluminium and cement will get slapped with extra charges just for being too dirty. And if we pull out of renewables, we're basically telling the world, go ahead, tax our exports. That's not protecting Australian jobs, that's taxing them out of existence. The Insurance Council reports over $2 billion in insured disaster losses in just the last year. Fires, floods, cyclones, you name it. Australia now ranks among the most expensive places on earth for climate-related damage. Every extra tonne of carbon means higher premiums, bigger government bailouts, and more strain on taxpayers. Abandoning renewables isn't saving us money, as you would have the Liberal Party and the Nationals would have us believe. It's like cancelling your fire insurance before bushfire season. So here's what most politicians don't say out loud. Our pollution from coal kills Australians. It drives asthma, heart disease, and thousands of premature deaths every year. But the politicians don't talk about that. They don't seem to care. Switching to renewables is a health policy as much as it's a climate policy. Clean air, fewer hospital visits, longer lives. That's not just a feel-good story. It's billions in savings and lives preserved. Surely that is an argument that should empower all of us to see that renewables is the way to go. Renewables aren't job killers, they're job creators. Solar farms, wind projects, battery manufacturing, and booming green hydrogen sector all mean thousands of new skilled jobs, especially in regional Australia. Get on board, Nationals. If we walk away from that, we don't just lose jobs, we lose industries. Look, it's like turning down Wi-Fi because we're nostalgic for dial-up. That ain't going to happen, but it's a good analogy. The rest of the world is building the future. If we don't join in, we'll just be buying it from them. And we don't want to do that. We need to get ahead of the game. That's what Australian government should be doing. Some people claim nuclear is the answer. We've heard that from, during the last election, we heard that endlessly from the Liberal Party and the Nationals. And they still believe that nuclear is the answer. But according to the CSIRO's Gen Cost report, it's the most expensive form of new energy generation, and it won't be ready in Australia until at least the 2040s. By the time a single plant is built, renewables will already have powered a decade of economic growth. Nuclear might have a place someday, but right now it's a delay tactic in a hard hat. So where does all of this lead us? Abandoning renewables isn't conservative, it's reckless. It means higher energy bills, trade penalties, more disaster costs, worse health outcomes, and fewer jobs. Australia can lead the renewable revolution or get left behind in the smog of our old power stations. So next time someone says we can't afford renewables, remind them we can't afford not to. If you agree, hit like, drop a comment. If you don't agree, hit like, drop a comment, and share this video with the one uncle who still thinks coal is God's battery. Because facts matter, and so does our future. I'm Tony Tonkin, and this is The Tony Tonkin Show.